some mic stuff last night. We good? We good? I don't sound like Darth Vader. That would be... I maybe one stream I'll just do a whole thing as the Bane. Happy Wednesday, boys. What's up? Encore Darn. This is playing Crash Bandicoot while listening to this breakdown has been good luck. Let's go. What's up, Hustle? What up, Marvski? Dang lazy mofo. German. OKC likely running one of the saddest lineups you'll see all year. They've had a couple games this year. It's G League-esque. Thunder do have a who's who of who's that. Though I didn't see Horford out yet, right? What's up, Solo? What up, Yo Elvis? We doing all right, man? How did you guys make out last night? Last night, I did all right. Last night, it was one of those nights where I went complete opposite of my multi-entry and my single entries. What I mean by that, like last night, I decided to have a bunch of like Wiggins and guys like him in single, or excuse me, in mass entry. Just because I thought the field with him and the usage was there, blah blah blah. And then in single entry, I started playing some ownership leverages based on my own ownership. So it actually worked out that I cleaned up pretty well in the single entries last night. Was one of those nights where we didn't have the Harden news really up until the game, really. It wasn't one of those true game time decisions, but it was just uneasy to have a 10 p.m. 11K questionable there. So he did his thing. 60 fantasy points is about what you expect his floor to be in that situation. Jokic with a 70 bomb up against Vooch. And then Enes Kanter, 19 and 19 on 40 minutes against the Brooklyn Nets. Certainly his minutes were a question going into this game. He had played 20-ish minutes in the previous two games. There was a matchup against Dallas, and the game prior was a blowout, so like you were able to explain it, but man, he was on one yesterday, and 55 fantasy points. I had him as a tier 1 on FanDuel, so that really worked out, because at one point I thought Jokic was the nuts, and then Kanter lets you circumvent that to an extent at his mid 5K price point, or lower 5K price point on FanDuel. Tobias Harris, that a lot of my single entries were just straight up balanced Kanter, Tobias handcuffed to Ben Simmons, Ingram and Zion after Lonzo was rolled out, and I even took a shot at NAW. He kind of blossomed late, really late. DeAndre Ayton with 48 bomb. I was really light on this Miami game. I did have some Devin Booker. It ended up blowing out. I thought Booker was going to get there for me. He didn't. But outside of Booker, man, he was really my only letdown. Do you guys have some of this Al-Farouq Aminu? 29 minutes. He dropped 17 and 10, 2 steals and a block. Just a massive value play. If you guys landed on him, man, he set the table for you. And then shout out to the Lakers. Lakers were getting stomped. And the core guys that you would have played, the Kuzmas, the Harold, those guys were in the game deep into the fourth quarter while being down 20 points. So shout out to the Lakers for letting that happen. Tony Bradley with a 40 bomb. That's it. Any other surprises last night, chat? Anybody? We loved RJ Barrett against the Wizards. That game got really lopsided. Outside of that, there really wasn't much else that let me down. I ended up Harden having a floor game really saved me from, because I certainly, if I would have knew for sure that he was in, I'd have just been like mad coring him, and not that 60 would have sent me backwards, but I can come around that 60 with the balanced guys, all spreading out their 40s and 50s, right? What's up, German? If Horford plays well, he'd be charged with being a tank violator. I don't know, man. Well, first of all, are the Thunder tanking? Like, they have every pick ever. I guess, yes, they are, but, I don't know. Horford's been on this rest situation for all season. It would be really, really weird for him to play tonight. I don't see him rolled out or anything like that, but it would be kind of weird for him to be rolled out tonight. All things considered. What's up, Josh? Harden's going to sit. He might. Utah, night 2 of a back-to-back. It's at Utah's probably the toughest matchup in sports, and being on a back-to-back does not help. Folks, 11 games tonight. If you guys did not know this, the NBA trade deadline is tomorrow at 3 p.m. So I really, really want you guys to understand how volatile tonight will be, and how more so than ever, a lot of the stuff that maybe we discuss on this stream will just completely be thrown out the window once some more scratches happen. And it's very likely that, 11 games on the slate, there's going to be some people that get traded after main slate lock. So I would not suggest you guys play your normal volume if you can't be around to take advantage of it. If you have time today to sit at that computer with your late swap optimizers, your re-optimizers after lock, tonight could be extremely profitable if there's a lot of moves and late scratches and stuff like that, and you're just there on top of it all. But if you ain't got time like that, I really, really would maybe stick to a handful of lineups or less, because it could be the late swap Olympics, as I alluded to on Twitter. Darius, Tobias Harris should have played more. Yeah, that game was weird too. They inserted James Wiseman into the starting lineup. The Warriors did. It sounds like it's time. It's just time. He played 26 minutes there. Jordan Poole, 39 minutes, 34 minutes on Draymond, and then Kelly Oubre, 35. He dropped 24 and 10. With Wiggins dropping just 14 real points, 6 for 15. That Ben Simmons defense, and of course they have Thibault as well. Doc Rivers was touting it pretty proudly, but it's also just Andrew Wiggins. He's that volatile of a player. Tobias Harris played 36 minutes, dropped a smooth 50 fantasy points. He was an elite play. So having him and Zion and Cantor at the bottom end of my FanDuel lineups were really, really nice, right? My grandmother could put up 35 fantasy points at the 5 versus Brooklyn. Man, Sanders versus Brooklyn is what you want. Was the solo Giannis sitting? I did not see that, but we'll get caught up here. Let's go to that 3 p.m. Fantasy Labs tweet. See what they got in mind. Giannis Antetokounmpo questionable. That might be left over from last game, but I'll try and get to the bottom of all that. James Harden questionable. He was questionable yesterday, so it's probably just a carry-on Q tag. However, there is validity in sitting him here, this being an uphill battle, no help against the toughest home team in basketball on a back-to-back. Malcolm Brogdon, Miles Turner questionable, probably rollover from last game. They missed last game, night 2 of a back-to-back, so I don't know if there's any further updates on that. We'll check all the injury reports. Danilo Gallinari questionable, KPJ questionable, Cody Zeller probable for the Charlotte Hornets. I want to pull up my injury news and notes on my second screen here, and we want the main ones, right? We want, what's the situation with Harden? James Harden, neck soreness questionable. Harden played through the injury on Tuesday. He scored 25 points. So yada yada yada. If the Nets need him to play to stay competitive on the second game of their back-to-back. If Harden can't play, expect Bruce Brown to fill a major role, but check that. All right. So no news is done news there. And who else? Giannis is somebody that we're concerned about. He is listed as Q. With a left knee sprain, he practiced on Tuesday, and Coach Mike Budenholzer expects him to be listed as questionable against the Celtics. He missed Monday's win over the Pacers, which resulted in Pat Connaughton moving into the first unit, with Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton doing the heavy lifting on offense. Be more of the same if he's out again. So the fact that he practiced there is a good sign. Probably leaning closer to in than out in a kind of, I don't want to say important game, but it's a game against a team that you might see in the postseason. And then let's go check out the Pacers here. I guess like this type of news we can do game by game here. Brogdon, lower back soreness questionable. So it says Brogdon's been in the subject of some trade rumors as well. It did not play. Blah, 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 blah. All right. I hate situations like that. Anyone who's cute and then like in trade discussions, like Aaron Gordon. I didn't even put minutes on him right now because, like I said yesterday, I didn't know that. I didn't expect him to play yesterday. With him being somebody who has been publicly reported to request a trade. So, and then Miles Turner dealing with a sprained left ankle. All right, we'll see. We'll go game by game here, chat. I am slowly. I'm rolling solo slowly. What? So keep me honest, man. This is an important day for news. Spam the chat if something drops, even if you think I already know. Can't ever be too safe. Solo, any slate with this many stars, you only really need one spend-up option. There are some value with some core plays. Don't overthink. Try jamming every star. So again, Solo, there's likely going to be a lot of value tonight. So you might be able to get to a pair of stars pretty easily. There's just going to be explosions after lock with or there's likely, I don't want to predestine it, but there's likely going to be some all-night news to track as phone calls heat up and these GMs are trying to get deals done with the trade deadline being tomorrow afternoon. And then just logistically, even if you're not trading a guy tonight, if you think you're this close and the deal gets done at midnight or tomorrow, you can't risk your assets getting injured tonight. So we just might have some stuff like that develop, and it's going to really start changing the scope of everything, really. Who gets the biggest bump up without Shea? It depends on if Horford's in or out, and then Baisley's already out, right? So it could get weird. We're going to go game by game here, kind of chop it up, and see if we can't walk away with some safer plays to write down in pencil. Everything we're writing down today is in pencil, just because of just the volatility that is upon us. So only one game at 7 p.m. lock. If you guys don't like it, you guys can always push lock back 30 minutes here with the Bucks and Celtics game starting at 7:30. And then there are just 2 games at 7:30. So if you didn't like the first 3 games on an 11-game slate, you can full fade the first 3 games and not worry about that CSV for an extra hour. So just something to think about. If you're going to go that route, make sure you have like a dummy lineup on DraftKings full of late game players. And on FanDuel, I found out you don't need you actually don't even need a roster. You could just reserve and upload whenever. So that's nice. And it also explains sometimes you get these conspiracy theories about players' ownerships going up or down. Well, probably because I don't know. Detroit Pistons project starting 5 here: DeLon Wright, Frank Jackson, Sadiq Bey, Jeremy Grant, Mason Plumlee, taking on Malcolm Brogdon, Karis LeVert, Justin Holiday, and Domantas Sabonis, and Miles Turner from the redundancy department. 218.5 is our total. 6-point spread in favor of the home team, Indiana Pacers. Again, Brogdon and Turner both questionable. They did miss night 2 of a back-to-back with a little bit of rest in between. Should they be unable to go here, we saw, I believe it was Edmund Sumner draw the start, but don't go there. Look at TJ McConnell. He's 5K on FanDuel, 5.9 on DraftKings. He's borderline playable already, and then just becomes that much better of a play with more minutes his way if Brogdon's unable to go. That game went a little bit sideways on the Pacers against the Bucks without Giannis Antetokounmpo, but TJ McConnell was really the guy that was trying to put up the fight for them. The matchup here against this Pistons team feels a little bit more safe to project the Pacers to stay in it. 32 minutes for McConnell against the Bucks, 28 fantasy points. He's essentially been a fantasy point per minute more than he's not, and we know he gets the scrappy peripherals, the steals, the assists. So he's not scoring dependent. He's one of those. It's kind of like if Draymond was a white point guard, right? Like he just gets those type of peripherals. Karis LeVert has promoted to near 7K on FanDuel, 66 on DraftKings. I'm probably like tier 3 as is now, more so on DraftKings. And if we lost at Brogdon, I'd be able to promote that up just a little bit. Sabonis on the south side of 9K on FanDuel. Solid matchup. Deep minutes likely coming his way no matter what. And he would just become a stronger play. Suns, a Miles Turner. And then on the Pistons side, I think I'm allowing myself to go elsewhere just because of how big the slate is and how volatile slate to slate the Detroit Pistons have been results-wise. One night DeLon Wright's popping 30, next night Sadiq Bey's dropping 50, Jeremy Grant, so on and so on. I definitely think individually in a vacuum, if you just want to set some taps here, I do think it's worth having a look at DeLon Wright, Sadiq Bey, Jeremy Grant, and even Mason Plumlee. I do like centers against the Pacers, but I couldn't feel strong enough, long enough to have a high level of confidence at slapping, a 20% exposure on any of these guys unless something significant happened. And it wouldn't be shocking for the Pistons to move Jeremy Grant. A lot of people actually expect that. So if that happened, maybe that whole sentence is different, and we start looking at Plumlee a little harder, and even Sadiq Bey, and you might see a guy like, I don't know, Sekou Doumbouya get inserted into the rotation, maybe even start. It can get really weird tonight. Chat, each game, chat, let me know who you love or hate or plays that you're on at each game. We'll make it interactive. 18 says, say I hate happiness without the H's. I said it in my head. We're not doing that. Solo, any slate with this many? Oh, I already read that one. Hit them likes. Yeah, appreciate that. What up, Crispy? No risky value today? It shouldn't be. We should, 11 games, we should have a lot of less risk at the punts that we're throwing out there, right? What's up, Pete? Thoughts on Justin Holiday over 2.5 threes on PrizePicks? Like it if Brogdon is out. Yeah, I like that. Also, I'm glad to see that they launched that. PrizePicks did inform the partners in the newsletter this week that 3-point props were coming, and that just adds another dimension to PrizePicks. It makes me like it even more. So if you guys didn't know that, PrizePicks does allow. PrizePicks is one of our partners sponsors. I had already had the 3-point prop in my prop spreadsheet because it was it's just kind of a research aid to the sports books, DraftKings sports books. They allow you to bet 3. So I love that they have added that to PrizePicks. So if you guys were waiting for another reason to jump on PrizePicks, there it is. So now you can bet parlays on fantasy points, real points, rebounds, assists, and 3 points made. Obviously, you can't double down on the same player, but that's 5 categories to just kind of do some research on and lay some money on and find some value. So I love that. If you guys haven't tried PrizePicks, PrizePicks.com, sign up with code CONDACR, and they will double your first deposit up to $100. We'll talk more about that later. What's up, Earth to Air? You like right? Yes. TLC, maybe. And McConnell in the same lineup. Definitely don't mind McConnell at all. McConnell's like at 5K 5'9", there's a necessity to get 30 fantasy points no matter what. But he's like not even the worst play if you just took a stab at him against the Pistons no matter what. But I do think I want to squeeze as much juice as possible from everyone in my lineup. So unless Brogdon was out, I don't see myself playing McConnell because the high-end median range outcome is probably 30, and that's spot on what I need. Like, we got to get the most from our salary on this size slate. Let's move on to the next game here. Boston Celtics at the Milwaukee Bucks. Celtics have had their name in the hat of a lot of trade rumors, and that's every year. I've heard rumors around Aaron Gordon, around Norman Powell, around Jeremy Grant, and even Lonzo Ball. So a lot of rumors are just that, rumors, and they have no substance. But keep an eye on that, and keep an eye on them as a potential candidate team to make a move and make a post-lock adjustment to their lineup. Projected starting 5 as of now for the Celtics: Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Daniel Tice. up against Drew Holiday, Dante DiVincenzo, Chris Middleton, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Brook Lopez. We got a 230 total, a 6.5-point spread in favor of the home team, Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo still officially questionable after sitting out last game. He did practice between that game and today, so it probably leans him a little bit closer to in, but he's still questionable at best. So keep an eye on that news, and hopefully we get a little bit more clearance as we get closer to the lock. This is a pace-up spot for the Celtics, but it is a 6.5-point spread here in favor of the home team. On the Celtics side, if you expect some adjustments post-lock, I mean, there's always a seesaw of usage up and downs based on who's in and who's out. We've seen Jaylen Brown in that last game play without Tatum and Kemba Walker. Doesn't look like there's any lingering notes on Tatum here. So if we get a fully healthy Celtics team, I really don't have a tell specifically. It'd be more of like who you like really like. I do think against the Bucks though, if we put 34 minutes on a Jaylen Brown or a Kemba as a scoring guard that can chuck some threes, those would be the two I'd be more likely to lean to. But I'm not running to. On the Bucks side, Drew Holiday has received a price bump to 8,300 on FanDuel, 7,200 on DraftKings. I would probably say as long as Giannis Antetokounmpo is in, that's probably more of a price point where I don't feel like there's a whole lot of ceiling left on our median range outcome, and really across the board on this lineup, like Dante DiVincenzo closing in on 6K. There's not a whole lot of oomph left pre-flop on these prices, so it's just more of if it happens, it happens. Giannis, of course, would be the outlier on just a guy with 60 fantasy point potential. I am curious to see how Giannis has fared against Tatum in the past. Giannis Antetokounmpo DKP by game log versus Celtics. I can't type today. Last 10 games. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep. So 58, 70, 67 in his last 3 games against the Celtics. Pretty spread out there too. It's not like all from a playoff series. Giannis has a super solid history against them, and there's no reason to suggest why he couldn't keep that up today if he were to be healthy. And maybe this Q tag sticking on him all day will suppress his ownership. And it's one of those raw points plays where 11 game slate is going to give us a lot of value. So if we can go out there and get Giannis at the house, freshest legs on the court, go for it. No pushback here. Bogdan revenge game against Sack. I think I had him Q2. Pokemon time for OKC. Yep. PA does not allow price picks. This state sucks. That's rough. I think it'll come eventually. I think sites like Price Picks are either just not in states that don't allow DFS, or just not in states that have a high licensing fee. But for my meetings with Price Picks representatives, they got a solid head on their shoulders, and I think they'll grow wisely. And I've been watching some spring training games and seeing their banners on the field and stuff, so it's kind of cool to watch them grow. I have a lot of fun playing on their site, so if they're not available in your state now, maybe just keep an eye on upcoming bills or whatnot. I don't know what the deal with Pennsylvania is. I'm sure that might have something to do with their licensing fee. I don't know. I didn't mention earlier, but I'll talk about it again later. But anyone who uses Price Picks when they and uses code Gundecker when they sign up will be entered into a month pass giveaway that will pull one of the first couple days of April. And there's been a couple of you guys in the last couple of days. They send me a daily report every day. You think ABC will be high owned? I don't think. I love your name. I don't think that this is a slate where we have to worry about egregious ownership from the 8K plus players, unless like some people were ruled out, and it was just a mob mentality. Because there are several viable 9K and above guys. I think Harden. I think a lot of people will just stay away from Harden, rightfully so. But Luka, Giannis, Jokic just keeps on coming out here dominating. Cat's coming off a really nice stretch of games. Sabonis could play 38 minutes against a G League team. Like, I don't think that you'll see egregious ownerships on a slate this vast from the high end guys. I do think when chalk develops, it's likely going to be the next man up value plays for teams that sit their starters or protect people for trades. I think like the Thunder might be the source of a lot of value. Not saying that's good or bad, but I don't think the chalk's going to come from the studs more so than it's going to be from the value. Theo, low ownership, heavy minutes. I'll have some exposure. You think he's low? See, I was thinking maybe he wouldn't be low, but we'll see. Denver Nuggets at the Toronto Raptors. Next game on the docket. Nuggets night 2 of a back-to-back. Project starting 5 for the Nuggets. Jamal Murray, Will Barton, Michael Porter Jr., Paul Millsap, Nikola Jokic taking on Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, Norman Powell, OG Anunoby, and Pascal Siakam. 223.5 is our total. A 3-point spread in favor of the visiting Denver Nuggets. Raptors definitely have their name associated with some trade rumors. One on Kyle Lowry and the other's on Norman Powell. I heard some really interesting Norman Powell takes. I even heard last night some steam picking up on a Norman Powell to the Brooklyn Nets proposal. Like that involves Spencer Dinwiddie. Apparently they have dueling contracts, and so if the Raptors are going to hit that rebuild button, Norman Powell seems like a candidate here, if that's true, to maybe get some of that post-lock scratching. Now, again, all these rumors are just that, rumors, but it is like we at least have to be cognitive and maybe just straight up prepare in our back of our mind for some scenarios. So if you think Powell's like a rebuild piece, and I think he has an expiring contract, which is why he is expendable, even if it's a rental and he comes back. But Kyle Lowry seems like a veteran guard that you could dangle in front of a couple of contenders, like a Clippers or whatever. So kind of keep an eye out for that. If that came out, then we know that like a Van Vliet would probably play 40 minutes and just be insane usage. We know Siakam has a potential to go above and beyond. For this matchup, I think OG Anunoby is really interesting. If we do put that 30-plus minutes on him, I like him as a peripheral getter, a scrapper. And last night we saw Al-Farouq Aminu kind of get there and become one of the better plays on the slate. A little bit more expensive for him today, but 15 shot attempts in that last game. Normally going to take between 8 and double-digit shot attempts, but the peripherals set such a nice table. Usually a lot of stock, so maybe more of a FanDuel play here. 4 and 5 stocks respectively in his last 2 games. I definitely wouldn't be against going his way today on either site, but I'd be probably more so a buyer on a site like FanDuel where that's weighted a little bit better. Jokic, definitely don't mind Jokic here. Jokic against anybody, but this Raptors team has just not been what it once was against the front courts in the era post Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. If we go look at that, what do we want to look at? Team DVP? Sure, let's look at that. Jokic is Jokic, guys. You don't need DVP to back this up, but it's a 52 fantasy points per game allowed matchup. It's a guy that's just doing everything. 70. You want 70 fantasy points, he gives you a shot. He's right up there with Giannis, a little bit cheaper. It is a back-to-back, so maybe you put that star on him, but it's not travel. They played Orlando, and the Raptors have been playing in Florida as well, so there's not like a lot of travel involved either. So definitely no pushback on loading up on Jokic as a high-floor stud to kind of anchor in your lineups here. Ankur says, I heard Dinwiddie, Claxton, and 2 seconds for Powell. Yeah, and that would basically being maybe just trying to get Claxton. Dinwiddie is not going to play this year, and I think his contract's up, and it would just be them trying to get Powell for this season. If the Nets got Norman Powell, that team's just ridiculous offensively. I'm staying away from players and trade rumors. I like OG and Siakam. Yeah, no pushback here. I like OG a little bit more just because of his price, but yeah, I'm fine. Solus assumed Jordan Clarkson listed as point guard on FanDuel for 4,600. I noticed that the other day. If I'm being honest, I usually like him more at the shooting guard spot. But yeah, also last night I had a decent chunk of Will Barton, Michael Porter. Millsap started and played. It was pretty trendy, pretty high owned. I got him down for 25 minutes, but old man on a back-to-back. Who knows? But Porter and Will Barton, I think there's enough minutes there, and the matchup's okay enough that I put him in a pool as a tier 3. Not sure if I'm going to get to Jamal Murray just yet. But Jokic for sure, and maybe a little Barton as a tier 3 shot. Cavs against the Chicago Bulls. Next game on the docket. Project starting 5 for the Cavs. Darius Garland Colin Sexton, Isaac Okoro, Larry Nance Jr., and Jared Allen taking on Tomas Satoransky. Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, Larry Markkinen, and Thad Young. We got a 216.5 total. 6 points spread in favor of the home team, Chicago Bulls. Definitely think this game could produce a couple of solid plays to insert in our player pools. On the Cavs side, we take note, Taron Prince. I almost said Tayshaun Prince. I always do that when I say T Prince. Taron Prince, Kevin Love, Andre Drummond, and Dellavedova all listed as out. I probably wouldn't expect any of those guys to play. Cavs, of course, being a low-key travel ball team, wouldn't be shocked if they drop some surprise trade stuff tonight. I don't think any of the core guys are really a risk or tied to trade rumors. Just getting Jared Allen, maybe like a Javal McGee I could see getting traded, but guys like Allen, Nance, Sexton, Garland, it seems like the core to build on. So I don't really think they're that risky. The Bulls, I maybe a Thad Young if you're trying to sell off a veteran to build for later. But for the most part, I think this game seems somewhat safe. I do think Colin Sexton and Darius Garland have a case to be high floor to high ceiling plays. This is going to be a pace up spot for the Cavs, and the defense is going to be low. Both teams have a defensive ranking in the bottom third of the league. If we put some actual numbers to that, we've got the Cavs as a 113.1 points per 100 possessions, and Chicago Bulls below league average as well, 112.3. So plenty of implied real points and fantasy points here. I do like centers against the Bulls. Jared Allen has really not had a slate in a while, or he just kind of went bananas. Definitely a double spot for the taking here. I'm curious to see how the last couple centers have performed against the Chicago Bulls. Rudy Gobert just had that ridiculous 9-block game, almost triple-doubled, 56 fantasy points, 34 minutes. Mason Plumlee, 42 fantasy points in 29 minutes. Jokic, 74 and 43. Jakob Poeltl, 42 and 34. And Moses Brown, 51 fantasy points in 30 minutes. Absolute nut spot for Jared Allen on a big slate. I can see a lot of people just clicking that name, clicking that game log, be like, man, he just hasn't done it in a while. But this is a matchup currently paved in gold. So Jared Allen, maybe more so on FanDuel at that price. I'm a buyer. And Jared Allen, I brought this block stat up for Gobert. I didn't expect 9 blocks, but that's Gobert. Last couple centers blocks, Gobert had 9, Plumlee had 2, Jokic had 1, and Moses Brown had 5. So it's definitely a team that go out there and get blocked, and Jared Allen has that in his back pocket. So again, probably a better FanDuel play because he's cheaper and blocks are weighted a little bit more, but absolutely a nut matchup for Jared Allen. So I'm going to be probably bullish on that take on FanDuel. Larry Nance is probably still a little too cheap on both sites, knowing he has point per minute potential and the matchup's a little bit more solid. And then Sexton Garland, a little bit more volatile, but you can see 40 here. Tier 3 in pencil. If I get to him, I get to him. On the Bulls side, I love that Zach LaVine's been going backwards in price, and it's rightfully so. They got Larry Markkinen back in the mix. They really shook things up. But AK on Zach LaVine against the Cleveland Cavaliers, definitely something that I feel is worth shots. Tyrese Halliburton, Fred VanVleet, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jimmy Butler, all guys that really have thrived in this spot. So there's no reason for me to not put deeper minutes on LaVine and expect solid usage. Maybe we put a little bit of a governor on the sample size here for the Bulls, and with all these people back, like really just marketing. So I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's go pull on that on-off court tool, just out of curiosity. I guess I just want to put LaVine on. Maybe I put LaVine on and like narrow it down to like. Will it let me narrow it down to last week? No, it won't. Okay. Let's put LaVine on and Larry Markkinen on. Just kind of get a number there. Because I like LaVine without Kobe White on the court as well. 27% usage there for LaVine over fantasy point per minute. And Markkinen's also over fantasy point per minute usage, a little over 20%. The assist rate at 24.5% there for LaVine. So really a solid matchup. Would it be crazy to run LaVine at Jared Allen on FanDuel? AK versus 6-7. Both guys have meat on the bone at those price points. I might I might set up some lineups like that teed off. Maybe that might be one of my correlations in my multi-entry optimizer, right? See what you guys got in the live chat before we move on. Tampa's an hour away from Orlando. Yeah, so maybe there's fans out there thinking the Nuggets went from at this point. Let's see what else we got here. Malcolm, what's up, Malcolm? I don't know what the freak. Logistics is supply chain and dealing with delivery or assembly lines. I think you're missing logically with logistically. Well, logistically is the number. Did I say logically? Logistically is what I say. I don't know where. I don't know. I don't know where we're. I think you're mixing logically with logistically. Logistically is what I, or you think I mean logically, but I say logistically. Yeah, supply chain and dealing with assembly. So yes, the supply of the players and your salary and the assembly of your lineups. That's logistically. I promise you, I'm using it the way I want to. But you're really smart. Fred Fells, anyone want my $2,500 lineup? Okay. Do you think Levine versus Sexland could be good? Yeah, I do, and I like the FanDuel price point. Marketing, I think, is a little unsung here, and then maybe Thad Young surprises some people, but I don't know how much meat's left on the bone at the price point that we have there. Let's move on to the next game here. Again, maybe Javal McGee is somebody. If Javal McGee got moved or got rested, maybe that's deeper minutes there for Jared Allen and Larry Nance. I have really got a hankering for Jared Allen on FanDuel. Hornets at the Rockets next game on the docket. Project starting 5 for the Hornets. Devontae, Moonlight, Graham, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, P.J. Washington, and Cody Zeller up against John Wall, Victor Oladipo, Daniel House Jr., Jayshawn Tate, and Christian Wood. Kevin Porter Jr. questionable. Dante Exum, Eric Gordon, David Nwaba all listed as out. Rockets travel ball team. Guys like Oladipo, John Wall, definitely always a risk to be involved in some trade talks. Victor Oladipo would be really fun on the Knicks right now. He fits that. Like, if you think about what the Knicks are doing, slow pace, defensive minded team, and they got bodies. And I know they went out and got Derrick Rose, but I don't think Derrick Rose is enough, especially when you talk about their defensive mindedness. So I would not be shocked to see Depot moved. So kind of keep an eye on that. John Wall is coming off back-to-back games where he was playing on a minutes restriction, and he's coming off back-to-back games where he blew that minutes restriction out of the water, playing 35 and 36 minutes. I like, again, if Coach Speak comes out today and they're like, okay, I know we messed up 2 games in a row, but now he's really on a minute restriction. I mean, it's Coach Speak. You can't trust it, right? 30 shot attempts against the Toronto Raptors. That might have just been a cumulative day of frustration where they were tired losing 20-21 games, and it was like no more, and Wall just went out there and did it. Attached to his minute restriction, I want to talk about Christian Wood, who received or still on a minute restriction for those 2 games. And in the first game, he played 36 minutes. The second game, he played just 28, but the game was a little bit more lopsided, and he had some fouls. So I wonder if he was somebody that could sneak into 32 minutes. And the reason I say that is this matchup's really fine for both of these guys if we didn't have minutes concerns. And Christian Wood, I put him at 32 minutes just for the YOLO, and John Wall at 35. And I'm just going to kind of ignore what they're saying. If we don't have Kevin Porter, and if something happens where Depot ends up chilling, I think Wall and Christian Wood make an elite handcuff based on the matchup and them kind of trying to get a little momentum. Jayshawn Tate had a huge upside game that last slate. He was 1% owned on FanDuel. He was in my top lineup, or not my lineup, I didn't have him in my pool, but he was in the top lineup of a lot of my contests that night. So maybe Jayshawn Tate becomes somebody that you look at, but really Wall and Wood are the first 2 names I want to kind of put in the player pool and see what happens. I would take a step backwards from Wall if Oladipo was in, but I still don't think he's untouchable just based on his potential minutes there, right? On the Hornets side, life without LaMelo. Devontae Graham back into the starting lineup. I still don't have him for deep minutes. He is coming back, still reeling back from an injury where he took some time off. But I still have him around 30 minutes. I do think he's cheap enough, chipping a chair to kind of, hustle and scrap for 30 fantasy points. But for me, the bulk of my interest for ownership will kind of lay in the Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier side of things. 29 minutes against San Antonio, 3-point game. He dropped 21 fantasy points in just 6 shot attempts, and that just can't happen. And I don't want to overreact to one game because one game sample size is just that. Just anything could happen going forward. But it makes you wonder if he's really just a 3-point specialist and he's just not out here doing much. So I don't have a whole lot of aspirations to load up on him. But Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, probably 2 guys I can get behind. And then PJ Washington with Cody Zeller back in the mix, with Biyombo still as a reserve. I probably wait and see if Washington gets any run here at the 5. And if his minutes take a step backwards. So really just Hayward and Terry Rozier from the Hornets side in my early drafts. And then off the bench, I don't hate some looks at Malik Monk and Miles Bridges. I think Malik Monk will be sporadically a guy who, in this scenario where he's essentially the 6-man guard, at his price point on FanDuel, there's going to be slates where he just pops off. And this is a Rockets team that you could definitely get off on. 223 is our total. So enough real points on the board. And Hayward, 7K. Hey, Rozier's a little bit more for me. Like, I feel like I'm going to have more than Hayward than Rozier. But, 7K is really cheap for a guy who definitely could drop 50+. We're going to see how the last couple of wings, specifically like small forwards, have done against the Rockets. Norman Powell, 27-36. Pakusevsky, 27-29. Sadiq Bey, 35-33. Wiggins, 29. All right, maybe we go run a usage check here on the Charlotte Hornets. Let's take off LaMelo. And let's put on Gordon Hayward and Rozier. These guys probably combined for like 70 minutes. Yep, those are 25% usage rates over fantasy point per minute for both. Devontae Graham has a 27% assist rate, but maybe I forgive and forget here. Rebound rate goes to Biyombo and Zeller. So, yeah, Rozier and Hayward are the 2 for me, and I probably tiered 3 of them to get things started. German. Hurdling over the landmines that are likely going to happen is the key to success tonight. No access to info before the start of all tonight's games could have you in for a long night tonight. Not even before the start, but like during the slate itself. If you are the type, and it's not wrong to be the type to just want to go relax after lock. I'd like to do that too, especially on nights I think are a little softer. But tonight of all nights, like, you should expect chaos throughout the night, and you should probably, if you plan to play a decent volume, you should probably make yourself available. But in that same thought process, because we know that tonight could be like that, tonight could be extremely profitable if you put some time in and sit at your desk grinding the swaps. I use Fantasy Labs, but I know there are other optimizers that have tools in their optimizing program that allow you to late swap with your player pool, and it'll keep the guys that are already locked in and re-script around those guys. So it's definitely a very, very profitable opportunity if it is one of those chaos nights where there's trades happening and people are getting rested and we're getting usage bumps and stuff like that. But if you ain't got the time, you got work, you got plans tonight, just kind of know that this is probably the night you should maybe just focus on one lineup or a couple of lineups, you know. What's up, B-Fam? Doing all right, bro? Dallas Mavericks at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Next game on the dock at 8 p.m. Project starting 5 for the Mavs. Luka Doncic, Josh Richardson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleber, Kristaps Porzingis taking on Ricky Rubio, Anthony crossing. God dang it. I ruined the bit. I ruined the bit. Start over. Crossing over with Anthony Edwards, Jake Laban, Jared Vanderbilt, Carl Anthony Towns, the Big Cat, Ernie Ladd. We got a 231 total, an 8-point spread in favor of the visiting Dallas Mavericks. I like this game a lot. Luka and Porzingis running him at Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. I don't think you're getting like an extreme discount on Edwards right now, being 7-7 and 7-6. I think you need that 40 plus, and I think knowing how inefficient of a shooter he can be at times, it makes him a little bit more risky. But if you look at that Suns series, I slept on this team's potential to keep games close. That Sun series, 31, 18, 16 shot attempts. I'm looking for like the 40 pluses, so I'm not going to be like elite locking Anthony Edwards, but obviously an opportunity has opened up since his last game where LaMelo got injured. Now, Rookie of the Year, whether you agree with it or not, Anthony Edwards versus Tyrese Halliburton, probably the marquee matchup right now if LaMelo doesn't play another game. And he knows that. So maybe he tries to step up here and make the most of his remaining time without D'Angelo Russell and Malik Beasley. And, of course, this T-Wolves team, being as soft as they are, I've heard their name attached to some trade rumors. I even heard them attached to like an Aaron Gordon idea, but I don't know if Gordon wants to go to a rebuild. So it wouldn't surprise me if some of these supplementary plays from the T-Wolves opened up and a guy like we don't know about, right, like a Jordan McLaughlin or something like that got moved and it just created more minutes. Even Ricky Rubio seems like an asset to a team that could use, like a veteran guard. So I don't think Edwards and Cat are going anywhere, so I'm kind of feeling confident in sticking with them, and I don't think Luka and Porzingis are going anywhere, so I'm confident in sticking with them. I have Luka as the cover boy. This really just is a elite spot. It's a high total, 230 total. If we go to that team metrics chart in the RunDFS.com NBA VIP spreadsheet, the Minnesota Timberwolves have the 4th worst defensive efficiency in basketball, and that's just good news for Dallas. Dallas is not that far behind them, and Dallas also plays at a low pace, and Minnesota's going to up the pace a little bit, get a couple more possessions here for Luka. So I love Luka as one of the highest floor players on the slate tonight. And the Porzingis, I can understand Porzingis and Edwards being a little bit more expendable. So maybe I don't have as much of those two as I do of like a Luka and Cat, but they're definitely in the mix here. Maxi Kleber, I was digging him when he was getting like deeper minutes. I think James Johnson's back in the mix. Willie Cauley-Stein's still out. On FanDuel at 3,800, that's a chip in a chair for, does he fall into 8 rebounds, a couple blocks and steals, and 8 points? It's possible if I need that value nugget, but I really, really want as much confidence as I can get tonight with my value plays, because 11-game slates, I have no excuse not to. Give me Luka, give me Porzingis, give me Edwards, give me Cat. If Rubio wasn't traded, I think Rubio's a solid shot at 30-plus fantasy points. And then, of course, I do think there's going to be an ancillary Maverick that's a fine play as well, but I don't really have a high level of confidence pre-flop to kind of make that commitment. We'll see what you guys got before we move on. Gabe says, I will ride if Harrison Barnes gets traded mid-game again. Bro, that's so nuts. It happens in baseball all the time. But in basketball, it's like, for a GM to know, like, hey, I might trade this guy and then let him go out there and risk injury. I mean, I definitely don't want to, like, put that in the universe. But, man, popping an ACL or MCL or even just rolling your ankle the night before trade deadline could ruin it. Like, you could be fine in 5 days, but as a team can't make that. You know what I'm saying? Like, to allow a player to go out there, it's just so crazy to me. And that's why I'm kind of anticipating a lot of chaos tonight. I do want to check out some history here. Let's have fun with StatMuse. I want to see how Luka's history and Cat's history. Luka Doncic DKP by game log versus Timberwolves last 10 games. 42. Jesus. He's got one like solid game. 42 in 37 minutes in February of this year. Then last year we dropped to a 46. Wow, that's underwhelming. I don't think they have the secret sauce to stop them. I just think that's a unfortunate coincidence. Hopefully, DKP by game log versus Mavericks last 10 games for Cat, the Big Cat. He dropped 50, 50, 50. I like him. And then we look at the last couple centers against the Mavs. Cantor only played 16 and 24 minutes, couple blowouts, but Zubac, 32 DKP, 36 minutes, 32 DKP in 35 minutes, Jokic 53, 37. So I got no pushback on Karl-Anthony Towns here, and I do think 10K. I do want that 50 plus. Like, there is certainly a range of outcome where Towns and Edwards are average to bad plays. Like, even 50 from Towns at 10K doesn't mean a whole lot. But I do think if I'm multi-entering, I got to have that correlation fired at each other in a batch of 5, 6, 7, 8 lineups, you know? Yeah, I know. Love the mid-tier. Mid-tier is pretty strong. Definitely some volatility at the high end. Let's move on to the next game. Phoenix Suns at the Orlando Magic. Magic night 2 of a back-to-back. Project starting 5 for the Suns. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, DeAndre Ayton taking on Michael Carter-Williams, Evan Fournier, Aaron Gordon, maybe? Question mark. Al-Farouq Aminu, and Nikola Vucevic. Out of curiosity, we go and refresh Fantasy Labs and see if there's been any developments based on this slate, because Aaron Gordon's somebody I didn't know what to do with, because he's definitely in the thick of trade talks. So I didn't want to put minutes on him, but I don't have a reason to not have minutes on him. I don't know. Any blurbs on him from the sites? Aaron Gordon. Dude, Gordon, by the way, was almost 40% owned on FanDuel last night. I almost victory lapped when he was 40% on, had 6 fantasy points at half. And I was like, people are idiots. I was almost that guy on Twitter. And then he ended up like not being the worst play, dropping 28, 29 fantasy points. But he played 35 minutes last night. It is a back-to-back. So I'm going to watch that. I don't know. I'm going to watch that. If he's out, and Terrence Ross, I probably will sit out as well. I think Terrence Ross is another one of those names dangling in trade talks. Evan Fournier, like we saw last night, will probably lead the team in shots. I do think it's a tough defensive matchup all the way around. I don't know if I'm getting a great deal on anybody. If the Magic can stay close enough, strong enough, long enough, sure, it's a double-digit point spread. Again, Phoenix, kind of like the Nuggets, where it's a back-to-back, but they didn't really travel much, staying in the state. On the Sun side, they blew out the Heat yesterday, and were able to kind of take the fourth quarter lightly. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, like, these are all chip and chair guys. DeAndre Ayton, I guess you could say, is kind of cheap. Last night, kind of reminded us of his upside, but I just think he's been consistently inconsistent. So this might be one of those X-out games, 11-game slate. It's a slow pace, grindy, double-digit spread game. So for me, it's probably an X-out. If Aaron Gordon doesn't play, maybe we run back Aminu. Maybe we run back Aminu just regardless, right? Last night he was playing with some pepper in his stepper, and 3,700 on DraftKings, 4K on FanDuel. Obviously, I think last night was like extreme best case scenario, but in years past he's been like a stat sheet getter. 11 shot attempts, probably a little anomalic, but like if he gets to that 25-30 opportunity, I don't think that's like an egregious range of outcomes, but I'll throw him in my risky value pool, maybe cap him at 10%. And if Aaron Gordon was out and Mo Bamba was out, maybe I am able to put like a deep minute projection on him. And if you really wanted to get fancy with it, Ken Burch, Gary Clark, like they'll get minutes, but there's no reason to touch them. Like they just are yuck. So for me, no exposure, solo, no exposure. I'm kind of in agreement with you there. Let's move on to the next game here. Oklahoma City Thunder hosting the Memphis Grizzlies. Project starting 5 for the Grizzlies. Ja Morant, Grayson Allen, Dylan Brooks, Kyle. The Andersons got tickets to the game. How'd they get tickets? Jonas Valanciunas taking on Theo Maledon, Lou Dort, Alexis Pokusevsky, Isaiah Roby, and Al Horford. So Al Horford has not been ruled out from what I can see. But he has been somebody that has been resting, and you would assume the way this OKC team makes deals, that he would definitely be somebody they'd want to move based on his contract. So I am kind of preparing for him to be out, and this maybe being another Moses Brown start. But I don't want I don't want to be irresponsible and like put all these thoughts out there and not constantly like put a disclaimer that it's really just thoughts. So please like understand that. Al Horford is not listed on the injury report. He's been rested in 5 of his last 8 games, and it doesn't matter if they're back-to-backs or not. Horford is a popular name in trade talks with Thursday's deadline approaching, but given how much they've been resting him, Moses Brown should be able to hold fantasy value. So I got him in right now, but I'm just kind of preparing for him to not be a thing. So if he's not, then I put Moses Brown in the mix, and Moses Brown has been really efficient per minute. If I pull up his game log here, you guys kind of get the gist of it. 34 minutes, 33. There's a 12 in there against Atlanta, just kind of a down game. Chicago, he dropped that smooth 50. He would just be really a guy that I don't think I could get away from. Memphis will probably be more of all of these matchups. I mean, Chicago, Atlanta, Houston, Minnesota. I mean, that's 4 of the best matchups you could draw to make a great first impression on the fantasy community. But Memphis is going to be a little bit more middling, but just the opportunities there. So this is going to be an entire NBA team priced at under $6K, and I would probably be there on all of them. If Horford didn't get rolled out, I probably still am too much of a baby back to play him. But Pokusevski, I think, is going to be one of the more trendy names here. I got no pushback on that. Like, these are all names that I'm sure you guys were well aware of all these players' existence 3 weeks ago. 33 minutes, 29, 27, 29 last couple games for him. Wide range of outcomes. I don't know. Like, I'll try for the sake of the stream to pull up a usage check here, but I can't imagine there's like any sample size to a no SGA, no Baisley, no Horford lineup. So just for science, let's just take off SGA and Baisley. Top 4 picks for PrizePicks. RJ, I'll do a PrizePicks break right after this game. No exposure to this game. Fournier over 2.5 threes is a yes on PrizePicks. Yeah, I'll probably be there on that. So I got it's actually more sample size than I thought there was. Baisley for no Baisley SGA or somebody else. I guess Horford would play with here in a minute. You know who might pop here? Remember they just traded for Svi? They traded Ham Diallo for Svi Mikhailiuk. At 3,800, Svi might be like the source of shot attempts and scoring in minutes. I could probably slap some strong minutes on him. What do I got? 14 minutes? Man, there could be a little bit more. Also, Ty Jerome is probably their best pure point guard option tonight. So they might get like a European squad coming out here balling like a habit. Ty Jerome, last couple games for him, 33, 14, 27. So you take out SGA, you increase his need to perhaps facilitate for this team. Yeah, he'd be in the mix for me. The Thunder just, oof. This is like the Pistons, even worse for fantasy, right? There's just so much that could happen realistically and logically. Not all of them are going to thrive, but they're just all too cheap to not really put in the pool for me. So I'm there on that. On the Grizzlies side, I don't have any deep minute projections outside of John Morant. He's the only guy I got over 30. Kyle Anderson was a massive play last slate. And Jonas Valanciunas always a chip in a chair for 40 fantasy points. Really want safety and as much ceiling as we can possibly get here. I wouldn't talk you down off of any of these guys, but I just don't have that warm and fuzzy feeling right on these guys. I think the Thunder are really just, I'm going to spray and pray them at my tier 3s, and if we get some Horford news to maybe clear things up just a little bit more, I'm there on that. But I probably set a rule for me to not have more than 2. Is that crazy? I think I'm not going to have more than 2. And just hope that like it's a bunch of average plays and some below average basketball, right? Theo Maledon. Like I said, every Thunder is in play, and if Horford's out, like Moses Brown, 1 through 5 of the Thunder would be viable. It's unrealistic to expect that they would all be great tournament plays, especially on these days where we're gunning for 400. But they would all be in the pool for me. And then Ty Jerome and Svi Mikhailiuk are really interesting as well. And like I said, Horford may not just be the only guy that gets put into a deal. To move that Horford contract, you might have to include, X and Y in a pick, or you know what I'm saying, something like that. So just be cognitive of that. Definitely a situation that can get weird, right? What's up, Gabe? Head back to work. Appreciate that, Gabe, man. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Will Allen outscore Woods? Jared Allen versus Christian Wood? I probably wouldn't bet that. If that's like a prop question on FanDuel, isn't Christian Wood a power forward and Allen listed as a center? No, they moved Christian Wood to center. Oh, so that is okay. I think he could, but I don't want to bet on that because if Wood's like not. He's on a restriction, but he's not, though. He's just a beast. Like, he's a bona fide stud. So, I don't know. That's a coin flip. Horford has received more rest than Rip. All right, I promised I'd take a pause here for some PrizePicks divulging, right? So, if you want a couple PrizePicks plays, cool. While we do that, I'll pull it up on the screen. And then if you guys are just joining or you haven't picked up on the promotion, we do have a partnership with PrizePicks. They are another way to play DFS. If you're tired of going against people at 150 lineups or massive field of 11 games, and you want to narrow it down a little bit, you still want to sweat, you still want some action, I think PrizePicks is that answer for you. If you've ever seen parlay, it's parlays meeting prop bets, and you're not playing against the field, you're playing against the house. The house is going to set some lines based on fantasy projections, so they're going to give you their fantasy projection for a player, their projected points scored, real points scored, their projected rebounds, their projected assists, and a line for 3-point field goals made. And it's up to you to be like, looking at this matchup, he can go above that, or this matchup he can go below that. So if you want to diversify your daily spend, not worry about salaries, and not even worry about people getting scratched. If somebody gets scratched on PrizePicks, it doesn't count. Like that just nulls that pick. Your parlay goes down a leg or what have you, and move on from there. So if you still want that action, check it out. I would absolutely recommend it. If you sign up using code GUNDACKER, there's so many benefits. First of all, you'll be entered into a month pass drawing at rundfs.com, getting access to my premium Discord, my spreadsheets for NBA and baseball in a week. And they're going to match your first deposit, double it up to $100. So $10 is $20, so on and so forth. $100, $200, and you mess around, have some fun. Let's dig around this site tonight, kind of show you what I'm talking about. So if you look at their NBA side of things tonight, they have a fantasy score where you bet the over-under. So if you like, we've talked about Jared Allen a couple of times, so maybe a Control F Allen. They got him at 36. And the scoring right here is the same as FanDuel. So if you play on FanDuel, you kind of keep that in mind. All right, do I think he's going to score more than 36 FanDuel points? Well, it's a great matchup. So if he's somebody I'm digging, then, all right, I don't want to bet any more fantasy points. I don't want to isolate this a little bit more, single stats. We talked about how Zach LaVine's assist rate is like really, really high in this spot. Maybe Zach LaVine has a soft enough assist number at 4.5. That's kind of what it's been against Cleveland, soft matchup. I want to put that there. And once I have at least 2 picks, a card's going to open up on the right side. You can have up to 4 picks to 10x. They give the option to flex play or power play. The flex play will lower your ceiling. It'll 2x it. but you can get one wrong and still make some money back. And if you add up to 5, if say I added Luka and Tomas Satoransky here, it's a 4-leg parlay. I get 5x if I get them all right, or I can 1.5 soften the blow, make it a cash game if I get one wrong. But if I power play it, put them on the table, I can 10x the picks there. So fun way to play. And I've said it before, but I think PrizePicks is a lot slower than the books right now at adjusting these lineups. I love keeping this up on my second monitor as I'm talking the slate over as news comes out, because sports books will just straight up pull stuff offline from that game. PrizePicks doesn't do that fast. So there is some edge to be had to reward you guys for acting fast and making cards. So definitely recommend you guys check that out. They did add 3 points made, 3-pointer made. And there's a lot of fun ones. I mean, you can have as many as 0.5, and that means do you think Sabonis hits 1 3-pointer today? And then there's guys, a lot of 2.5s. Who said Evan Fournier? Fournier in... Pete said Fournier over 2.5 threes is a yes. I definitely think it could be, right? If you take potentially Aaron Gordon out the mix, you take Terrence Ross potentially out the mix. Evan Fournier is somebody that's going to chuck the basketball a lot. Him and Vucevic likely to be 1 and 2 on field goals attempted. If you just look at last night alone, he chucked 12 threes, made 5 of them, 8 attempts. Like Fournier would definitely be an anchor bet for me here. Going against Phoenix. Phoenix is a tough matchup, but I think the volume will be there. So I do like looking at Fournier over 2.5. So he's got to make 3 threes for that to cash. And then, so go check out PrizePicks. I love this. I'm having more fun now than ever. And then if you are a subscriber or thinking about being a subscriber to Run DFS, check out my player props tab in the RunDFS.com spreadsheet. That's going to isolate my projections with some substance, and everything that's on PrizePicks, fantasy points based on their scoring, real points, rebounds, assists. PRA is not on their site. That's on like sports books, and then 3 points made is on there as well. So a good little research aid to compare my projections to their lines and maybe find some solid spots, right? What's up, Orbit? The price is nice. The world's most rested man, Al Horford. Horford has received more rest than Rip Van Winkle. I already read that. I don't know why I read that twice. I already read that. But it's a good burn. It's a good burn. Did I get this? I put the screen back up. All right, we're vibing. Next game on the docket, LA Clippers at the San Antonio Spurs. Projects 35 for the Clippers. Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, Ivica Zubac. Taking on Dejounte Murray, Derek White, DeMar DeRozan, Keldon Johnson, and Jakob Poeltl. Am I not Poeltl enough for the Poeltl Club? I'm coming home. Kawhi Leonard back in San Antonio. Texas does have fans in the stands, man. Kawhi's 9K on DraftKings. Paul George 8,200. Clippers have been tied to several trade rumors themselves. I think the one that's most interesting that I keep seeing is Lonzo Ball. But I've also seen kind of Lowry in the mix. And Kyle Lowry, this old teammate, Kawhi, Serge Ibaka, with some chemistry already built in, championship chemistry. Don't think that's a crazy trade. But what would it cost the Clippers would likely be maybe Lou Will, back to Toronto, stuff like that. So maybe look for the Clippers to wheel and deal tonight and into the morning, and if that impacted their lineup today before the slate, definitely possible as well. I think Luke Kennard, somebody they picked up and then they extended, maybe his contract's something you dangle out there to rent for a championship. But Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, the two sources of interest for me. I'm not really there on Zubac per se, but I don't think he's crazy without Serge Ibaka chipping a chair for 30 fantasy points. Probably pencil that down. Marcus Morris, 4,500 on FanDuel. If I'm looking for 25, 30 fantasy points, it's in the range of outcomes. And on the Spurs side, very, very, very wide range of outcomes for this starting lineup. We've seen DeRozan pop off against Kawhi in the past, especially in that I think it was that first game against the Raptors where DeRozan really popped off for like a tripped up. But at 89, 84, there's not a whole lot of what feels like upside left. If you drop 50, it doesn't crush you, but you take it. Jakob Hurtle, I think it's very intriguing. 5'4", 6'2", looking for 30 fantasy points, but I think there's so many stronger options at center that I just don't see myself getting too highly invested in these guys. Deontay Murray, over 7K here. I'm looking for 40 plus in this tournament or in tournaments for this slate. So I'm probably really, really low in this game. But Paul George and Kawhi are in the mix for me. And that's probably it. Chat, do you guys disagree with that? Are you guys going to have some Spurs exposure? I don't think there's a wrong answer there. I'm just kind of spreading my gut reaction, my feeling, right? What up, Mopar? What up, Gun? I'm net positive 8K in cash games this season. I can't win a tourney for the life of me. I'm stuck in cash game mode. It's hindering my success. I want to be a tourney player. First of all, a net positive AK is insane. Like that's just to be positive in cash games is amazing. So if that's working, like don't change it. But it is fun to be a tournament player. But you got to understand, man. Cash games are ridiculous hard. I don't know how you're doing it, but whatever you're doing is bottle that up and sell it, like drink it. Tournaments is going to be a grind. If you're a multi-entry tournament player, your average day is probably break even or lose money, and you're just kind of that EKG machine, and then it's that you are looking for, right? That hit here and there. So for me, I usually flirt with like a top 10 finish maybe once a week, and then I actually get that top 10 finish or that first place finish like maybe once a month to once in a month and a half. But as long as I'm just even, little profit, little loss, even, little profit, little loss, I grind it out. So you just really got to have patience, and you got to be able to handle the swings because there's tons of swings. Orbit Capella being buzzy for fire thoughts? Maybe. That game's next. I'll chop that up in just a second. I don't want to mess up the winning ways, but I'm lost here. I just baby step it, man. Just baby step it. NBA is really the toughest sport, I think. If you want to become a tournament player and really kind of understand the nuances of game theory and leveraging ownership and stuff like that, I would probably say try baseball, try football, because the NBA is so chalky. Like the other night when news was dropping left and right, when Tatum was rolled out, when Wood was we're gonna put him on a minute restriction. Like everyone was 40-50% owned. You're really not gonna get that in these other sports. So maybe spread your wings a little bit. What's working, work, man. Just keep making money the way that you are, and then just I don't know, just grind and learn. It's hard to change a mindset because I was a cash game player when I first started, 80-20, 90-10, and then cash games just got ridiculously hard. Like they're really, really hard. So the fact that you're positive and a winning player in cash is such a elite thing to be that I wouldn't change it until you absolutely had to. I would also say a lot of times cash lines in the 50-50s are higher than tournaments. So maybe just train the lineups that you're running in cash into tournaments, and every now and then that lineup would be good for a quintup odd, right? Orbit, what's up, Mike? Mike, or Mike? I know lots of Mikes. Are you Mike from VIP from Houston? What up, Tavares? I want winning lineup for FanDuel. I need the money. I feel you, buddy. Sleepy Joe. Kawhi getting up for the Spurs game, you think? I mean, this isn't the first one, but yeah, back in San Antonio, like I said, Texas is wide open right now. I don't know what the capacity is in the Spurs stadium because Popovich seems a little outspoken about that, but I would assume it could be up to 50%. Kawhi Leonard, DKP by game. Log. I can't type today versus Spurs last 10 games. $56, $45, $55, $42. And he at San Antonio. He hasn't played at San Antonio since 2019. A couple years on that one. 56. There's a 43 in there. Obviously, we want that 50 plus at this price point, but it's there. It's viable. And the mid-tier is strong today, so no pushback. Again, Paul George as well. We have to move on. Sacramento Kings hosting the Atlanta Hawks. Next game on the docket. Project starting 5 for the Hawks. Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, Tony Snell, John Collins, Clint Capella taking on Darren Fox, Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, and Rashawn Holmes. We got a 230.5 total 3-point spread in favor of the Atlanta Hawks. This absolutely should be a game that you guys are full stacking in tournaments. If you're multi-entry or even if you're single entry, I like this game a lot. We're putting two of the worst defenses in basketball going at it here in Sacramento. Sacramento, the worst team defensive rating in basketball, 118.7 points per 100 possessions. And then Atlanta has been league average at best, and we've certainly seen them slide backwards in a recent stretch. They are getting some pieces back. DeAndre Hunter back in the mix. Maybe that stifles things up a little bit, but nonetheless should be a pretty high-scoring affair. The Kings are a team that I like to full stack because I do get a solid predictive value in minutes projected. I got the entire Kings starting 5 at over 33 minutes each, or 32 minutes each. They are without Marvin Bagley. That's pretty significant. They've moved Barnes to the 4, so Halliburton, Buddy Hield are probably volatile versus each other, with them both being a little bit scoring dependent to kind of get there. But they're both kind of cheap enough where I wouldn't eliminate them from the pool. And again, like I said, Halliburton and Anthony Edwards both an opportunity to fight for that Rookie of the Year award now. Fox is 9K on both sides. I need 50 plus there, so I get it. He's actually more expensive than Trae Young, so I understand being a little bit skittish on that. But I do think Rashawn Holmes deserves a look, even though he's almost 8K on FanDuel. The minutes have been solid for him. His end game is really volatile. If he's not in foul trouble, we've seen some monsters, some 50 bombs. Tough matchup here in the paint particularly, but if he gets away from the paint a little bit, maybe he builds a stronger game. I don't think we're getting a smash deal on Fox and Holmes, so I would be a little bit skittish to like tier 1 them and even tier 2 them, but I do think Barnes is going to be a ton of minutes. I don't know if the Barnes is one of those guys the Kings might be shopping. Every year he's just kind of involved in those type of talks, so no surprise. And then maybe one of these centers like a Whiteside or something like that could be in the mix as well. On the Hawks side, they need to get right, kind of put their squad to use here, getting a little bit healthier than they have been. Gallinari is officially questionable. Bogdan Bogdanovic, revenge game, 4,200 on him on FanDuel. I got him at 27 minutes off the bench. I'd be an investor on that, especially if Gallo did not play. I do think there is some meat on the bone there. And then Trae Young and Clint Capella. Clint Capella 1v1 to Rashawn Holmes is a very interesting debate. It's one of those spots where if you told me Capella gets the same amount of minutes against the Kings, I'd probably lean Capella just because I know his potential upside. 29, 23, 26, 27 minutes here. It's been pretty up and down. He played one game against Sacramento earlier this season, just 26 minutes, almost 50-pieced them with 24 real points. And that's, of course, on the high end for Capella. But if we go pull up that team metrics chart in the RunDFS.com NBA VIP spreadsheet, look at points in the paint allowed per game. Sacramento gives up the most points in the paint in the league, and that's where Capella is going to score every one of his buckets. There's just going to be dunks. So I do like the upside spot here, and then blocks allowed per game, 5 blocks allowed per game. Like everything is just a golden spot and a golden opportunity for Capella to be one of the highest scoring players on the slate, and plenty of blocks to kind of bake in there as well. It just really comes down to a matter of minutes. But if even at 26 minutes, I can really flirt with 40 fantasy points. I'm going to have them. It's just how much of them is where really I start meditating. Do I want to tier 2 it? Do I want to tier 3 it? And then even just straight up 1v1, like you're playing this late slate and you got to choose between Holmes and Capella. I think that's a closer debate than maybe the initial knee-jerk reaction is. John Collins, I've heard his name here and there on some trade discussions. So if he were one of those afterlock scratches based on that news, then I would be a lot more confident in the Capella minutes. And then if Gallo were to play, Collins probably, and Collins were out, Gallo would be probably a tier 1 option for me at that price point in this matchup. And then, of course, guys like DeAndre Hunter, in seasons past and earlier this season were deep minutes guys, so maybe they build up on that. But Bogdanovich could thrive as well. And then Trae Young, I tell you what, Trae Young versus De'Aaron Fox, really doggone close, and Clint Capella versus Rashawn Holmes, kind of close as well. But I probably, I want to lean closer to Capella here, but it really comes down to a matter of minutes. And then Trae Young versus De'Aaron Fox. Last couple of point guards against the Sacramento Kings. Shake Milton dropped 33 in 36 minutes. Russell Westbrook, 62. LaMelo, 29, 26 minutes. Kemba, 30 and 37. And Darius Garland dropped 22 and a half in 28 minutes. But I'm curious to see what Colin Sexton did that game, because that could be a little different. Sexton dropped 29 in 29 minutes. Danny Green dropped 32 in 33 minutes. So it's just like a super solid spot. So maybe Trae Young. Is this a Trae Young slate breaking opportunity? I hate playing more than 20% of Trae Young, but it's such an elite spot. Earlier this season, Trae Young played 31 minutes, dropped 45. So Young and Capella handcuffs, I'm here for it. And big minutes on him lately. So I probably have more Young than Fox, because I do think Fox has a little bit more of a situation where his teammates could drop his ceiling just a little bit, like if Halliburton and Hill both kind of popped off. But Trae Young, I think, has his hand in everything. So give me Trae Young over Fox, but I do like them both. And then Capella versus Holmes. I probably go with the projections here, and I got Capella edging him out on 26 minutes with that. If I can get that 26 minutes to like a 30, like this is an elite 50-60 fantasy point upside spot. So hopefully I can do that, right? Let's see what we got in the live chat. Cash lines are right there with triples quins for the cash line. Yeah, man. I missed any tier ones. Woke up late. I don't have a tier one just yet. I think, Ibsen, if you missed the beginning of the stream, the gist of today is tomorrow's the trade deadline, and there's 22 teams playing tonight, and they all can make some deals and have some late scratches, right? Darn, Holmes or Capella. I'm leaning Capella, but it's really close. As you can tell, I'm pumped by the 3-point over-under on PrizePicks. Fox over 1.5 threes. Yeah, I can say Atlanta Hawks. Well, Hawks give up, 35.2 points for the 3-ball. Is there any decent Hawks 3-point props? That's interesting. I've been watching you since 2017 and a Run DFS member since. You should have a lot more subscribers, bro. You deserve it for the amount of work you put in. I appreciate that. I'm not gonna say anything else, but I appreciate that. But just know, good things come to those who work, and I might have something exciting for you guys soon. Running mad late today. What up, Dez? Where you been, bro? You're usually the first one here. What the freak, bro? I was counting on you. Loving some Halliburton in this game. Also, Holmes. Holmes had a big game against Atlanta last game. Yeah, like I said, Holmes is a little hustler, man. The only thing about Holmes is the price is a little bit on the, what's the median range of outcome, and is it worth it? Bro, that was a plane. What? That was a lot. We don't have planes like that here. That was crazy. Holmes 35 minutes against Atlanta last time, 38 fantasy points. So 38 at 7K is just not what you want. 11 game slate, you're gonna need to milk all of the upside. So I definitely like the idea of Holmes, and if you got 40 plus, I'm here for it. And I do think 40 plus without Marvin Bagley in the mix is very, very possible. But with Bagley gone, we're starting to see the emergence of Whiteside getting some minutes again. And again, Whiteside could be one of those guys they move as well. 12, 15 minutes for him in the last couple games. So I don't know. It's the confidence level and it's understanding range of outcomes for him. Also, Capella, a decent rim protector is a good way to describe him, right? A block guy, rim protector guy, and Holmes is going to get most of his points in the paint. And we don't really have a sample size of him against strong rim protectors lately, so I do worry about that here. But I'm not gonna have none of them. I just I'm not at that price. I'm not super confident, right? What's up, Lorenza Collins? over under 1. That's it. Oh, for threes. Dang. Gunner's the realest guy in the game. Realest guy in the room. How you doing? I appreciate that. I really do appreciate the love. You guys are real ones, man. You guys make it worth it. So, shout out to you. This bang's for you. Got one game left for the docket. Before we do that, take a pause for the cause. After this stream, I'll be in the RunDFS.com VIP Discord, chopping up the Slate a little bit more. Should be a very, very eventful one. We're projecting it to be pretty eventful. Tomorrow being the trade deadline again. If you go to RunDFS.com, make sure you have an account, sign up. Click that onboarding thread. You'll have a link access to the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheets. We have the NBA one listed, and then you'll have a link to the Discord. You'll open that Discord, and you'll see this NBA chat icon. You click on that. You can listen in. You grab a mic, join in, introduce yourself, have some fun. It is... we like to have fun, right? We like to hang out, talk some stuff. It's not all just business and basketball, but when it comes down to it, when we need to break down news and stuff like that, we're there. And I think today might be one of those more serious than not days. So come check that out. Anyone who signs up this week, really this month, will be eligible to win one of those 10-month passes that Russell Miller has sponsored. So check that out. Several of you guys are taking advantage of that. And then, of course, we have that PrizePicks promotion as well. Code Gundacker. Not only are they going to double your first deposit up to $100, but you'll be entered into a drawing. Anyone who signed up PrizePicks using code Gundacker to win a month pass as well. So lots of cool stuff. Main event tonight, Brooklyn Nets at the Utah Jazz. 10 p.m. is our tip-off. Now, it's the same time as the Sacramento Kings, so obviously the Kings game is going to have a lot more eyes on it, but we got to discuss it nonetheless. Next, Nets projected starting 5, James Harden, Bruce Brown, Joe Harris, Jeff Green, and DeAndre Jordan taking on Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Bojan Bogdanovic, Royce O'Neal, and Rudy Gobert. We've talked earlier about the Nets being in trade rumors for Norman Powell. If they acted on that and made it happen, what would it cost them? Obviously, nobody that you'd want to play, like particularly like a Harden or something like that, but maybe one of these guys that are a little bit more expendable, like a Bruce Brown or Jeff Green. Nick Claxton is somebody that we all played a decent chunk of last night. Like one of those guys could be involved in a move for Norman Powell. So prepare for that to be a scenario potentially coming soon. Also prepare for maybe James Harden to not play. He was dealing with a neck injury or sore neck last night. Was questionable, ended up playing. This is a back-to-back going into the altitude into Utah. Utah, the best home team, arguably the best basketball team when they're full strength. A 10.5 point spread as is. The Nets will be without Blake Griffin, on top of no Shamet, no Kyrie, no KD, stuff like that. So I really have no interest in the Nets here, and I'd probably say process-wise I can justify fading James Harden here all day, every day, and I probably will. And it just really comes down to, do I want to put myself in the mix for betting on some of these Nets value guys in a tougher matchup? And I don't think I will be too deep into that. I think Tyler Johnson, Bruce Brown, all those guys make sense. But I'm willing to just kind of like hope I don't have to, especially when you parlay the fact that, you know, the Nets are in hot trade talks for a couple guys, but that Norman Powell one's really interesting because Dinwiddie for Powell is basically the same contract, and you get a little bit more value. On the Utah Jazz side, it's the Nets. I love centers against the Nets. Rudy Gobert's coming off a 9-block game. Right now, it's just a matter of how many minutes can we safely project Rudy Gobert, and is it a spot where Utah's really, Snyder has played his starters out there even in some really lopsided games? So is Gobert, at the end of the night, one of the most obvious plays just because centers against the Nets is such a lucrative and fruitful spot? It's very, very possible we look back on that and say, duh, last night Enes Kanter had 19 rebounds. Enes Kanter had 19 rebounds. Enes Kanter had 19 rebounds last night in 40 minutes of play. I definitely think we know Rudy Gobert has 2020 potential. Really, maybe 10, 15 points, 20 rebounds, a couple blocks. Alex Len, 36 fantasy points in 29 minutes. Nikola Vucevic, 58 fantasy points, 39 minutes. He had 14 rebounds. Len had 9, by the way. It's just such an elite matchup. So I don't want to overhype it and get you guys too clicked on a guy that's in a potential blowout, but Gobert's in an elite spot. And really, so are all the players on the Jazz side of things. Mike Conley, 6K-ish on both sides. You can see 30 fantasy points there. Donovan Mitchell, probably outside of my comfort zone. All things considered, 8-4, 8-8, almost 9K on DK. I just think I'd probably rather put that money on like a Trae Young, all things considered. Bojan, kind of that 15 or 50 kind of guy. Jordan Clarkson and Joe Ingles, both kind of awkwardly priced. I would like that FanDuel price of $4,600 if he was still a shooting guard, but he's point guard eligible now. So I kind of just want to take the raw points at the top. So I can see myself being really, really down on this game, but I would have some shares of Rudy Gobert. And I really want to say Claxton at 4K on DraftKings is viable if you just don't if you don't think if you're not worried about the trade thing. I'll just say Claxton. We talked about this yesterday with Chronic. Is Claxton gets a lot of his scoring via pick and roll dunks, and Harden is a really good facilitator to set him up for that. So maybe if how much do you trust Bruce Brown or Tyler Johnson to set that up? 10 field goal attempts yesterday, 80% success rate on that. Like I said, they're all in the paint. So Rudy Gobert, if he's on, he's an elite rim protector, elite paint defender, but those faster centers with the mid-range to long-range game can tend to get off on him. So maybe I can justify being light on Claxton as is. So, yeah, chat, what do you know with the Nets? Because I definitely think that's a strong decision to make one way or the other. And then I think it's just Rudy Gobert for me, right? A little bit. Ibsen Bracy, gun, I'm playing $100 single entry. What would your percentages be, or how would you form a lineup? You're playing a single entry, so it'd be 100%. What? What would your percentages be, or how would you form a lineup? I'm playing $100 single entry. Am I reading? Am I missing? If it's a single entry, then you don't care about percentages. You just play who you think are the best plays. Maybe a little bit of game theory if there was some leverage to have. But I think this slate being so spread out the way it is, I don't think there's an egregious must-have chalk play yet. When I go off the air and there's a monster trade with Van Vliet and Powell, if Lowry and Powell both got moved, I think Van Vliet would just be 40-minute spot guy. That could happen, but and create high ownership. But right now, I don't really see a massive chalk guy for single entry sakes on 11 gamer. Learns to just handcuff Mitchell and Gobert. I like Gobert. Mitchell's fine. If you're running some correlated lineups, I think that's fine. But I think Gobert is more so a one-off option for me tonight. Donovan Mitchell season, I would say Gobert, but I can see Donovan wanting to go toe-to-toe with Harden. I don't even if Harden plays, I don't trust the Nets to keep this competitive, if we're being honest. No Blake Claxton's to play him with that. Little Claxton, yep. Fade Harden if you don't think he gets 27, 10, and 10 in Ingles and balling. But are you high on Pokusevski tonight? I think all the Thunder are in play, but realistically and logistically, when you're making lineups, you're not going to want 4 Thunder against the Memphis Grizzlies, and then what it was a 220 total. So you're going to have to start making some cuts, and I think what I'm going to do when on my optimizer, I'm able to make groupings and correlations. I think I'm going to put all of those Thunder in the pool and say I want no more than 2 of each. So I don't have lineups that end up with 3 or 4. Because I also think there could be more news on that Thunder side with potentially Horford sitting. And then just pre-flop, I literally can make a case for Moses Brown, Isaiah Roby, Pokusevski, Theo Maledon, Svi Mikhailiuk, Ty Jerome. You see what I'm saying here? Individually, they just become the Detroit Pistons, where they're all cheap and they all can get there, but a couple of them probably scored 20 and mess up your night if you're overly invested. So I'm going to be a little bit more diverse in how I approach that. I think Pokusevski, if I had to start ranking them, I think he'd be up there with Moses Brown in terms of floor. But I certainly think at that price, the ceiling is not like guaranteed to smash, you know. Am I seeing this right? All-Star to All-Star is $200 for VIP. Yeah, so basically until the baseball All-Star break in July is $200, which is right now that's 4 months. And I do think next month the month pass could go up to 100 because there'll be NBA and baseball, and I'm ultra grinding. And like I said, there could be some more grinding, so the time is definitely going to be a little bit more valuable. So, yeah, you are seeing that right. I love this Bogdanovich revenge narrative. I'm chasing. I don't mind it. I don't know if I'd play it strictly for the narrative. It's just like really a good spot, good matchup, and the minutes could be there. And what else did we say in that game? Gallo's questionable. So if Gallo missed and a John Collins trade happened or something, you know what I'm saying? It just becomes that much more lucrative. Also, it's a Rondo revenge narrative. Like if you really just want to start slapping revenges on everybody, yeah, sure. Anyway, that's the slate, guys. I gotta get in that RunDFS.com NBA VIP Discord chat. If you guys would do me a solid before you hit the road, maybe hit that thumbs up for me and double check, see if you're subscribed. A ridiculous amount of my viewers are not actually subscribed, which is kind of like the YouTube thing. But if you wouldn't mind helping my number out a little bit, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button. If you have anything else for me, twitter.com/GundackerSports. Best way to reach out to me. My DMs are open. I'll be in that RunDFS.com Discord chat up until lock, probably bleeding after lock, dealing with potential swaps and flips. Tomorrow, the trade deadline is at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. We usually do this show at 2 p.m. Central-ish. So it at least gives us an opportunity to be a little bit safer tomorrow in terms of guys that will and won't play. But it also might give us lineups that, like, people that get traded tomorrow probably not playing tomorrow either. So that's like can get a little bit weird. Just a 5-gamer. So maybe we shoot for 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. It's a late lock. So I think that's the move. 3 p.m. Central. Blazers, Heat, Wizards, Knicks, Warriors, Kings, Clippers, Spurs, Sixers, Lakers. Should be a fun one, man. I appreciate you guys, as always, making part of my day be part of your day. I hope you crush it tonight, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good luck. God bless, and go win some money.